Because sometimes I hear this idea around settling coming from their friends.
Hmm.
And it's either their friends are single. And so, at least on a subconscious level, they don't like that you're in a relationship. And so they're using settling as a almost like a manipulation tactic to kind of keep you single. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Decoding Dating. My name is Adam Melnyk. I'm a licensed coach with the International Coaching Federation and owner of Seeing the Leads. And I'm with my co-host,
Evelyn, thank you for having us again today. My name is Evelyn, and I'm the founder of Love and Connection Inc. And this is a matchmaking and an event business. And I'm so excited to be here with you guys again.
Awesome. I know we have a very interesting topic that keeps coming up when I'm coaching people, which is settling. I keep hearing people talk about I'm settling or I'm worried that I'm settling. And a question I think I'm going to toss to you is how do you what is settling?
Yeah, I think settling, I think, like you said, it's a common word. It's on TikTok, it's on Instagram, like most videos you see, it's about settling. I think settling to me, I think it's when you are kind of in a relationship, I would say, maybe in where you are not, you know that you're not in the how would I say, like you're not fully maybe yourself, I would say, or maybe you're settling in terms of maybe you know that you deserve something better, but you're actually settling to something lower than what you think you deserve. And it could be from maybe income. Maybe you feel like you're making maybe 100K and you're settling with a guy that makes 60K, but you know that you deserve someone that is making 100K or more. So that means to you that could be settling. And I feel like settling is different for different people. So like someone can be settling financially, someone can be settling based on look, someone can be settling based on living like maybe religion. It's just different for different people. So I think that's how I look at settling.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because we talk a lot about compromising. And it's like in a relationship, you have to compromise with the other party. Like this, you're working with people. And I think there's a line between settling and compromising almost. I know for myself, I think when it comes to settling, it's almost like you're missing something. Like it's that idea that I deserve this and I'm in a relationship and the relationship's good. Like it's not a bad relationship, but I'm almost missing something important and I'm not sure if I should go out there and find it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. Like I think compromising is like you are okay with something, but you don't have any regret with it. Like, let's say you want to have 3 kids and he wants to have two, but you guys are compromising to have three or to have two. So that's something like three or two doesn't really make much difference. It's not going to affect your life in any way. But I see settling as something that you might end up regretting because you're losing or you're foregoing something that is of importance to you. And for example, if income is something that is very important to you and you've been working so hard to get to that income range, and now you now maybe are out of desperation, or maybe because you feel like I'm getting older and I need to settle down, I need to have kids now, and then you tend to like just go with what comes, and then that way you feel like, oh god, maybe then you see yourself struggling and be like, oh, this is what I was trying to avoid, and you have that regret of, why did I actually settle to marry this person when I could actually do better? So you always feel like you could do better. That's with settling. With compromising, you don't feel like that. Like it's just like something that you can deal without regrets. That's compromising. But with settling, most of the time it ends up it goes, you end up go looking back and say, oh god, I wish I never did this, or you start regretting. It's something that comes with regret, like a loss kind of way. Yeah, that's the way I see it actually.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned it's that it's a loss. I
Yeah.
mean, when I think of settling, I think of it as an internal, almost like alarm bell that's saying, "Hey, I'm missing something that's important to me and I should go out and get it, which almost begs the question of standards,
Mm.
because you're supposed to have these standards where if, for example, income's very important to you, then you set the standard of I will not date anyone below a certain income level.
Yeah.
But then if you're dating somebody below that income level, the question becomes, well, what happened? Why did you start dating a person that you knew was missing something that you needed?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, yeah, I think, and if you look at it, there's so many reasons why people settle. When we're younger, we have our standards, and we are young, we can play around and stuff, right? But it gets to a point where you really, really are serious with your life, and then you really know what you want, and you want to actually move towards that direction. But unfortunately, life is not always that straightforward. Things would always happen, um, and you just end up, reducing your standards, or just going for something that you would not have gone with when you were younger. And then it just also depends on what is the priority at this moment. What is the most important needs? If having family is the most important thing at the moment, then you might think of, let me just forgo that, guys. Maybe income, or religion, or so many things you may forgo just because you have a particular need that you're trying to solve at the moment, and you feel like, okay, this person can provide me what I want, but I can, you know forgo this important thing to me, and see, maybe I can, can work with it, that type of thing. Yeah, so
Well, I think you hit like one of the main reasons is immediate need.
yeah.
I need something. Maybe it is just somebody to hold at night.
Yeah.
Maybe it's financial stability, but it's almost like an immediate need.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I think so, because yeah, I think it's just as this should because it's not really we don't want to do things that we regret later on. I think the most, we always pray to, have what we want or what we've been praying for, but unfortunately, it's not always like that. And but we have to, sometimes we make decision based on the current situation, right? Like, this is what like, it's just like a lady, she's a Nigerian celebrity who just had a baby, but she had there's no husband, there's no man. But I think she has always wanted, she was previously married, and that's what she really, really wanted, right? To have a family. But right now, she's 40, and she has to either get married, but at least have a child. So she went, I don't know, maybe sperm donor or whatever way direction she went with that, but now she has a baby. So she saw something like, this is not something that it's a beautiful thing to have a child, but this was not the direction this was not a standard I set for myself anyway. But at that moment, she needed a child, and she had to do what she needs to do to get that child. So sometimes, we may have a standard, or kind of what we want for ourselves, but situation comes, and then you have to decide what is the most important that I can do right now to actually solve my problem. So, and I think that's how some people approach relationship. And the thing is, hopefully, you're able to live with that decision, and it's not really going to be something that you'd regret that much, but at least you could see the beautiful thing in your life to say, okay, you know what, it was worth it. So I think,
Well, I love what you say because it's like it's filling that immediate need, but also there's a bit of flexibility around it.
yeah.
Because often I see individuals get out into the dating world and they are hell bent on these are my standards, this is the lifestyle I'm going to live, and there's no real wiggle room. If there's one thing I've learned about predicting your future, this is how you do it. You think of the best thing that's going to happen to you, you think the worst thing that's happening to you.
Mm,
Your life is going to be somewhere in the middle going sideways.
yeah.
And if
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you have a child and you just have to make it work, it's immediate needs. We're
Yeah.
not worried about your future plans because we need to solve your needs now before we can get you to that next level.
Yeah, so yeah, that's good. I just wanted to ask, like for you, like, so what are these? Have you? I don't know if you've ever experienced it before, like settling. So, like, what are the signs for you when it comes to actually say, okay, you're settling versus compromising? Like, you know.
Well, it's so interesting. When I talk with men, and even I think about myself, we don't use the language of settling. Like, I don't really listen to men saying, I'm settling. I hear them sometimes say, I could do better. I hear them be grumpy and miserable, be like, oh yeah, my old hag is da 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 da. I hear them being miserable, but I don't really hear them talk about settling. However, it happens. Like, it's not to say it's not happening. I think it's just different terminology that is being used,
Yeah.
which is usually coming in of like, I think I can do better.
Mm.
So they're not saying I'm settling, it's just saying I think I might be able to find someone better out there for me. And for in my experience, I usually find settling comes from inside, where it's like I'm giving up a piece of myself
Yeah.
to almost satisfy another part of myself. Maybe
Mm.
that is um, my own happiness because I'm with somebody that's kind of mean, just so that I could have somebody that I can hold and hug every day. Even though in the back of my head, like I know I could probably do better and I could probably find somebody that's a better fit. But also there's this idea of tiredness in dating
Mm.
where it's like, I've been dating for a year to 2 years. I'm done. Like I just
Exhausting.
want somebody.
It's crazy. Yeah, I think settling is more of a woman term versus men term. I know a story of, probably I've mentioned this to you before, of a guy, like I said, that had a beautiful lady that he was dating at that time, and she was very attractive, and a lot of guys wanted her. And this guy, I think she left him for another guy, and she felt like, I would never date a beautiful girl anymore. I'm gonna date a girl that she's just okay. I could travel and come back and she's fine. But the thing is, he actually got a girl. She's lovely, like she's a decent woman. She's good to him. But he said whenever he wakes up to her face in the morning, he feels some type of regret. Right? So it didn't really say it in terms of I settled, but it just said it like that. But I think women tend to use the word settling, but men don't use it that way. So it's like a women kind of term to use that. So I think that could be the difference, but I think it means similar things. I also say settling as well as maybe you're in a relationship that isn't working. Like I think you mentioned that, like, and you know that this guy isn't treating you the way you should be treated, and you know that you deserve better, but you could settle because financially is taking care of you financially, and you're not financially capable enough to move on with your life, so you tend to just be in a relationship and settle, um just because you can't get out at the moment, and until you are capable enough to get out, so you could settle for the moment. So, okay, I'm gonna just settle with this guy for now, get my stuff together, and then move on when it's time. Do you see that settling for you?
Well, don't really see that as settling so much as
Okay.
using somebody.
Okay.
Because like settling implies that, you're in for the long haul and you're actively kind of sacrificing a part of me to kind of make this work, as opposed to let me just date you until I find something better that comes along, which is kind of disingenuous in a weird way, because if the other person is looking for a long-term relationship and then that happens and they find out that they got used, then they come away with baggage. They're like, oh, screw men or screw women. They're out to get me. And
Yeah.
I don't like using people.
Right? Yeah. And I think that's why I mentioned the fact that maybe you are in a toxic situation And like I say, a lot of there are a lot of marriages where a lot of people are in a toxic situation, but because maybe they are full housewives, they cannot afford to leave that person at the moment. So they can just settle and endure until they're able to get their stuff together and move on. So that's like in an abusive or a toxic situation. But I do not agree. I don't lie. I don't think I appreciate people using people. Like if the person is so nice to you and is treating you well, but you're not really there for the long run, or and then you keep deceiving them and then you leave them when you're ready to leave. I think that is being used, but it's just like I looked at it more like in a situation where it's a toxic, unhealthy relationship type of thing, but you're not capable of living at that moment, then you prepare yourself to leave. I see a lot of posts around that um, on social media too.
Oh, absolutely. I know I've worked with women in my life that they are in an abusive relationship. In this relationship, he took all the power from her. She
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have a job. She doesn't have an income. She has nothing. She is being both mentally abused and then physically abused as well.
Mm.
And in that case, it's like it's, you got to do what you got to do to get yourself out of there. And if that means just making it work until you put yourself in a position to move on, absolutely.
Yeah.
However, if you're just like, you know what, man, I'm just lonely and I'm gonna play somebody to fill that need until someone better comes along. Don't do that. You're poisoning the dating pool when you do that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, that's manipulation. That's bad. So I don't support that too. So yeah, I do agree with you that let's try to avoid situations like that. Yeah. So yeah. So do you think that it's better to wait for the right, like the person actually checks your boxes, than having to just settle and then regret it?
So when it comes to it, I like to promote courting, which is
Mm,
all about dating with intention. I am going out there, I'm looking for somebody that ticks the boxes that I'm looking for. And this, when I'm talking about ticking the boxes, I'm not talking about 1,000 different things that they have to have. It's usually about 3 or 4 things that they're must haves.
mm,
And then after that, you have things that are like negotiable. You know, sure, she doesn't know how to cook, but I can cook. She's open to learning. We could make this work. As opposed to, no, I really want a woman that cooks. I'm tired of cooking. I've cooked in every single relationship I've been in. No, this has to be a must. So when I talk about dating and when I work with my clients around dating, I always advocate for long-term success. Like we're not necessarily looking at settling, but we're looking at long-term happiness. And if you think that you're settling with this person, it might be time to move on. Like if you're already having those feelings, oof.
yeah.
However, that being said, for a lot of people, they're just like, you know what? Yes, I know I'm settling, but my partner's a good partner. Like they're not abusive, their income's good, like they're fulfilling my needs, their values are there. Sure, I'm missing this one thing, but
Mm.
at the end of the day, like I, when I look at all my previous partners, they're kind of the best one. So I'm happy settling.
Yes, yes, I like that. I think settling is not always a bad thing. And sometimes, I think some people go into relationship just looking at the short-term benefits, like, okay, I'm going to get this from that, and that's it. Not having to look at the future. Like you say, you could have a guy that is amazing and is all this beautiful thing, but he doesn't have one thing that you think it's important to you. But when you look at the future and say, okay, I think this guy will be an amazing husband, an amazing father to our children. He'll be an amazing. He has his life put together. It would be a protector, a provider, and I can support him. We can build an empire together. You're looking at a bigger picture. So that one thing maybe could be religion, for example, which is core too, right? But you can always, it can work even if you have different religious beliefs, it can work. And so if you're intentional about, like you said, intentional dating, which is courting, if you're intentional about making the relationship work, it's gonna work. And at the end of the day, in the future, you might look back and say, wow, it's what you might not even see that settling anymore, be like, it's worth the sacrifice, maybe. You know, yeah.
It's funny you say that. So I knew a woman, we'll call her Jennifer. And Jennifer came to me and she was miserable in her marriage. She's sitting there going, he doesn't take me out on dates. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. I feel like I really settled. And the question I had for her is, when you were dating, what were you looking for in a man? And her answer was very poignant. I was looking for a man who had a lot of money. Well, her man has a lot of money.
Yeah.
So she got exactly what she asked for without realizing that she was settling because she was reaching for an immediate need.
Yeah.
And the immediate need was, I need somebody to financially support me. When she looked at her relationship with myself, she realized, maybe this is the best relationship for me. It is something I can work on with him, on potentially having him take me out on dates. I could potentially work with him and help him start meeting some of my needs. Because when I talked with her, she said, I'm 70 years old. Like, if I leave him, is there somebody else out there for me?
Yeah.
And even if there was, would I be even open to the idea of dating somebody? I said, yeah, like these are questions you have to ask. And she said, I'm okay settling with this individual because for the most part, things are okay. And I think I could build a better house with them. Will it be perfect? No. Will it meet all my needs? No. But I think it's better than the alternative. I was like, awesome, let's go that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it, because I like the fact that she's able to reflect and ask these tough questions, and then she could actually eventually come to the conclusion that, you know what, I just settle, and and see how it goes. Yeah, and I look at settling to as mostly short term. For most, like you said, like the example you gave in terms of was she knew the guy was able to provide for her, and she went for it, and that was the only thing she was really looking at. I don't know if she was looking at other things, but that was the main focus for her, and she was able to get that. But she didn't see that the man that has makes so much money like that, it means that he's working so hard, and it doesn't might not even have time to take you out and all this thing. So it's really important for people to look at the bigger picture, like, you want this, but this is what you have to give to get that. Are you okay with that? I know some people say it's better to cry in a Lamborghini than to cry, poor. Like crying in a Lamborghini is much better than being poor. So it's like, you see how people look at that. So it's like, sometimes something has to give, regardless in relationships. That's it. Something has to give, but what you're giving up, is it worth it to you? Is it something that you look back and say, I don't regret it. I'm grateful I gave this a chance. So I think it's really important that we ask questions, and so that at the end of the day, because like we always say, life is short, life is short. You don't regret your decisions, because yeah.
I love that you hammered on that because it's so true. I knew a girl, she loved bodybuilders. She hated the bodybuilder lifestyle. And the bodybuilder lifestyle is essentially you're working 8 hours a day and then you
Mm.
get to go to the gym and you spend 2 more hours at the gym to 3 more hours at the gym. You don't get to eat out. You're bodybuilding. Eating out adds carbs and fat. So he was eating essentially chicken breast, white rice, and steamed vegetables. And she's like, I want a man that I can take out and go to fancy restaurants with. I want a man that is around and hugs me, not just at the gym. And it was that moment of, I hear you, but you can't have the bodybuilder aesthetic and not the lifestyle. So,
Mm,
what is more important?
yeah, yeah, that's actually. I feel like a lot of people need to start thinking like this, because then we tend to be more intentional about dating. Like, I get a lot of my clients do when they come in and they have this idea of the kind of partner that they're looking for. And sometimes I try to let them be like, Now let's look back at your dating history. What kind of guy have you been dating? Are you still looking for that same type of guys? What are you able to give in? Like let's reevaluate your criteria, right? So I tend to make them think deeper and they'll be like, oh yes, because a lot of people are like, I want a guy that is a provider, that is this and this. I'm like, listen, we have to be we have to be very we have to understand that we're in a different environment. Like back home, in Nigeria, most men would do some certain type of, they could provide, they could, because the environment made it easier for them to be able to do that, even if it was a lot of burden. But for those men, but they could do that because they had less bills. Now moving to this environment, and you still have that criteria that I want a guy that can fully provide. My money is my money as ladies, and the his money is our money. It's a different environment. It's going to be hard to find a guy that can give you that and give you the time that you need. Because back home, it's like you could have people that works for you, and it's easier to set up businesses. Like I know you, this the support is always there. It's like is always there. But here, you're not going to have nannies. You're not going to have drivers. You're not going to have all these things. He may not be able to come home and help and support you in the house with the kids and all those other things. Are you ready for that? What can you give? Give up and or give in. I don't know. Like you need to really reevaluate what you need and let's be realistic.
Well, exactly. I knew a gentleman, and this gentleman was burnt out. He was exhausted. And I remember talking to him. I said, every time I see you, you are exhausted. What's going on? And he says, I am working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm a full time fitness trainer. And then when I'm done that, I get to go be a security guard.
Ooh.
This is what I do, just Sunday to Sunday. And I said, you have a family. You have a wife and a child. How's like what's going on? Like how do you make that work? And he says, it's awful. My wife wants me to provide for her and wants me to be there for her and be this almost financial piggy bank, but then also wants me at home,
Yeah.
be taking care of the children, cuddling her. It's like, I can't do both. I fundamentally can't do both. And so if you want me to provide the income, I have to work this hard. And if you want me to be there, one of two things has to happen. She either has to get a job or they have to be okay with a lower standard of living.
Yeah, yeah, because it's so hard. Um, and like I said, we just need to be very realistic with what we're looking for so that there's no if you want something, let's look at the let's look around it like, okay, you want this, what do you have to give in? For example, the guy that works a lot, you want him to be there for you. You want him to be able to support you at home. So which means is that you support him like you said, or it works less hours so that I can spend. And are you okay with the income that comes in if it works less hours? Right? So I've seen situations where a man works harder and there's issues like the argument in the house and more problems. So it's like, okay, you know that this man is stressed, is carrying a lot of burden. And it's same thing with a woman too, where she's taking care of the kids and you still want her to cook, you still want her to take care of you, you still want her to, be a woman at night, everything. So do you think is realistic enough? What do you need to give in? What do you need to make that happen? So it's really good for a lot of people in a relationship or couples that are married to really kind of reconsider and be more understanding, or I would say be more considerate, right?
Absolutely. And you have to kind of take you kind of have to take a mindset of looking at society as a whole. So when I often hear people talk about finances. I need to find a man that makes a lot of money. Sometimes when I dig into it's like, okay, why does he need to make enough all this money for you? It turns into, well, I don't want to work. So he's my retirement plan. And I remember thinking to myself, if any guy of any substance finds out that he's going to be your retirement plan, he's out so fast. And
Hmm.
when we look at our society just as a whole, people are just making less. Wages haven't kept up. Things are harder.
Those are
Like
harder. Yeah.
to find, for example, a partner that's making a ton of money, it's kind of rare. I remember learning from Stats Canada that the average Canadian family makes $60,000 a year. What? That's a family. And so when listen to people that are talking about finding a partner that's making like a quarter of a million, I'm like, oh my gosh, where can you find these people?
I think what I hear a lot is like at least making 100K and more. Even with my clients, I'm telling you, like I don't tell these ladies, like a lot of the guys that I meet, guys are struggling. Like they are struggling. There are a few of them that makes 100K and more, but how many? Like majority of them are just trying to survive, like making enough money just to get by. And it makes a lot of sense when both people are bringing in something. At least there is, like I always go by, be able to work together as a family in such a way that one income takes care of all the old bills. So when one person loses their job, you're still moving forward. And for a man in this part of the world where it's very difficult to work with one income, so if he has to work alone, maybe because there are situations where the woman may be home because she has to take care of the kids or whatever, and then he has to work, yes, but then that will has to mean that he would, if he's lucky to have a good job that can fully support, maybe because you guys have less expenses, then that's lovely. But if you guys are living life and he has to, oh my god, it's going to work like crazy, and you may not get the best of him at that point in time until you're able to chip in and support him. Or maybe he comes home, because sometimes it will come home and and it gets peace and it gets beautiful, lovely meal waiting for him, and there's love in the house. It is worth it for him to say, I'm just gonna keep pushing and support my family. But when it comes home and it's all issues and all those type of things, then that may be discouraging for him to say, what am I even doing this for? So vice versa, even for a woman too, right? So yeah, so it's like, okay, if I'm going to work, what is the trade off here, or trading? I don't know if that's the right word, but there have to be something that she's giving, to. Mm,
Well, there's always a cost. The piper has to be paid no matter what.
yeah.
And when I look at the economy, especially in Canada, I was reading some very interesting reports that were saying that women are outpacing men when it goes to university. Women are just going to university in droves. Men are not going to post secondaries anymore. Men are not getting into leadership positions as much. And I know many organizations that when you look at their leadership structure, it's just all women,
Yeah.
which is fine. However, if women are getting promoted into leadership, men are not, and which means that they're just going to make less.
Mm,
And so it means it's going to be harder to find somebody that is making what you're looking for. And again, it's that idea of what are you looking for? Like there has to be a cost that
mm,
you're willing to pay to make a relationship work. Because when we look at a relationship, and I know we've talked about this ad nauseum, it's a partnership. You
yeah.
are working together with them. It's
Yeah.
not you versus them, it's you and them versus the world.
Yeah, I do agree. It's a partnership thing. It's not like a one-man battle or a moment's job. It's just both people working together for a better future, for a future for the family, or building a legacy or whatever. So I just this question kind of came to mind for me, and I just wanted to ask you this question: do you think men are settling more than women, or which one? Do you think men are settling more, or men are settling more?
Uh, so this is anecdotal experience. So this is just my personal experience. I see men settling more than
Hmm.
women. And what I mean by that is I know a lot of men that just they don't get a lot of attention out in the dating pool. And then when they finally get some sort of female attention, so the easiest way to describe it is these men are in the desert, thirsty for water. They just want a drop of water. And the minute they get a drop of water, they're like, oh my God, thank God. That's what they're like. They're just thirsty. And the minute they get a female attention, they're like, I will set my own needs aside. I don't really care if she tick marks or ticks all the boxes.
Mm.
At the end of the day, this is female attention. And I haven't had a date or found somebody that's interested in me for over a year. And I need to make this work. And that's almost like that settling mindset.
Hmm. That's interesting though. I do, yeah, that's interesting to hear from you. I see that because the men are the one pursuing the women, so they and I think I see it differently a little bit. I feel like um I always feel like men have options. I feel like a lot of women, because for example, I look at the dating online dating pool, even with my clients. I see that because the men are the one kind of making the decision in terms of would I marry you, or even go to the point of proposing. So the women are more like waiting for that uh so that answer, like that question. So I feel like a lot of men tend to have options. So it depends. So it depends on the people, right? Individual. But I think a lot of men tends to have options because, for example, Facebook dating, for example, I see a man could send a message to multiple women, and they're like responding. And they could even be lashing out and say, I'm trying to respond to this guy. He's not responding back to me. And they are really very, the pressure is there. I feel like the women are waiting, like it's like they're just waiting to be asked. And I feel like the men tend to have more options, and the women tend to just like, okay, I've met a lot of crazy guys, so they are really very, I see it more like men have options though, because they are the one that makes the women are just waiting on them to and to propose or to marry them. And the men tend to be the decision maker in that regard. But the woman just wait. You know what I'm saying? Like she's just waiting and she's trying other options. And by the end of the day, the man is the one that really makes that decision. Um, but also I feel like a lot of women, I hear the reason why the word settling is so common is because a lot of women are using that word a lot, and I see that a lot of women are settling. For women, for example, because we get to a particular age where we know that okay, we need to settle down now, we need to have kids now. And because of that, they tend to settle when they start getting closer to that age. For a man, it still feels like he can get married at any time because he can always have kids at any time. But women don't have that luxury like that to wait for that. So I think because of that, women tend to settle to just get what the like to just kind of meet that immediate need, or it may not even be immediate, but just to meet that need. For the man, like I said, it depends on the individual. Some men tend to have a lot of options. Some men may not have that much options. So for the men that have a lot of options, they have they tend to maybe want to pick the best, or men to pick women that meet their needs in terms of maybe finance or different criteria that they use. But yeah, so that's the way I look at it. I feel like more women are settling than men. But we tend to,
Well, this is where
I
we
guess,
get into it.
yeah.
So this is where we get into a really interesting dynamic because women have different power than men. So women hold the keys to the relationship. They choose if a man is going to date them or not. But then the men hold the keys to marriage, which
Mhm.
is separate. And so I think what a lot of women are struggling with is they accept a man to date, but he's not going to commit to her.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. And so for a man, commitment's very common for men. Like women will commit to a man, but men won't commit to just any woman, if that
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense. And then the interesting dynamic I see is sex is very challenging or very rare for men, because women hold the keys to the relationship, but then it's common for women because they can choose it. It's and then when I hear the discussion about like men having all these choices and options, I hear that more with men that are quote unquote highly desirable. Um,
Mm.
it's a very small portion of men, and these men tend to have a lot of options, and they're not interested in settling down because why would they? They have women falling at their feet. They can just go on the dating apps and just they have 10 matches per day and like, yeah, why not sleep around?
Right. Because yeah, it's like a lot like, oh my god, this guy is like this guy sleeps around with every girl. But the thing with women is, and also it depends on the culture. Like I tend to look at the cultural thing because it's different. For example, like back in Nigeria, people are um people are very like a girl that sleeps around is looked at as someone that is very cheap, promiscuous, right? Like, oh, she's too, so most girls are very, they tend to they are very intentional about dating and stuff like that. Now there are people that are crazy, but the society frowns against that from a woman, from the woman's side. But for the men, they feel like, oh, it's a man and he can, you know do whatever, which is double standard, right? But well, that's the society, right? When I got here, for
We
example,
don't have to like it, we just have to live with it.
right, he's right. We don't have to, but that's where the society is. So when I got here and I met a girl, and she was like, I asked her, and she's 20, and that was a long time ago, and I asked her, and she told me she's had almost 20 body counts, like 20 boyfriend, 20 body counts. I was shocked because I've never heard that before. Because like most of my friends in Nigeria would say something like, I had just for boyfriend. I dated a boy for 3 years. It's not like jumping from. So that was like a cultural shock for me. Like, because I feel like back there in Nigeria, like because of the way the culture is like, the men have more options. It is looked at as for some men even brag about, oh, with their friends, like, this, that, this. But yeah, so it's a different cultural thing. So that's why some of the things I say is more like I'm also looking back at where I came from and seeing that, oh, over there the guys have lots of options. Now it doesn't depend on the look. Like it could be handsome, right? And it could get, but the thing there is more like money. So a whatever 4 feet tall guy with money is high value. You know what I'm saying? Like he's bringing the money, right? So it could be seen as high value. You can have a very handsome boy, but he's broke. They might not seem as high value. Like they might not seem as all that because the money was what was talking at that end from that culture. Here is different. Here is different because we could see how people are struggling, and so the expectation is different now. And yeah, so there here could be more of look than you know. So
Absolutely. And it's funny you talk about how these men are bragging about how many women they're sleeping with, because I've encountered so many women in Canada that brag about all the men
really,
they're sleeping. Oh yeah.
oh, that's crazy.
There was one woman and she was telling me she loved dating. Dating was so much fun. And she was shocked that I didn't enjoy dating because she was going on a date every single day and having sex 2 to 3 times per week with different people. And she was proud of herself. She was gloating about this because in her mind, all these men want me. So I am
Hmm.
desirable. But the issue that she was finding is none of them would commit to her. And so then it became this problem that she was encountering of, is she desirable? Like if you're looking for marriage, but none of these men are going to marry you, uh, something's wrong here. You need to start either beefing up your criteria or being a little bit more strict.
Wow, that's very interesting. I think the way we now like looked at it, I looked at it was more like because I am beautiful and a lot of guys like desire me, I do not want to sell myself cheap. I want to be like I want to be very valuable in the eyes of men. I don't want to go to a space and say, all these guys have had something to do with me. It's the fact that you walk into a space and be like, you'll be proud to say, you know what? No guy can come out to say they've slept with me. It's that kind of a thing. Like it's more like the value was and like more like I'm beautiful, but I got high value. Like not everybody can get to me. Not everybody can talk to me. So that was what we used to brag at that point. And that was why virginity was big there. Because it's like she's a virgin. Oh, wow. She waited till 28 or whatever. My God, like she's seen as very high value. But things have changed now. It's different now where, it's like even when you're a virgin, people look at you like you have something wrong with you. But it's interesting because when like the girl that told me that she's had 20 body count at 20, she was bragging. I saw it like, oh my God, 20. I looked at her like this. That's crazy. So it's different, you know.
Well, it's
Uh,
funny you say that because men don't like women that have a high body count. And one of the things somebody once said to me, they said, "Oh yeah, I would sleep with a woman that has a lot of men underneath her belt, but I
yeah,
would never commit to her because the idea that my woman might have been with my friend or somebody I know or might have pictures online about her, that's a big no-no because
yeah.
I want her to be mine. She's my queen, my princess. But if I found out that she's been with all these other guys, that makes me genuinely uncomfortable." It's like, that's a very interesting perspective.
Hmm. I think what I like, what I got from you now is that regardless of the culture, the what men would want is still the same in terms of they still want a woman that they feel like it's mine and it's not available to everybody. Uh, so I think that is at least something that is common, but it's just that different society, even women in the different part of the world see it differently. Still, like okay, some people feel like they are desired more by sleep, or they feel like they feel more desired when they have a lot of guys coming to sleep with them. Why? So people would feel like I feel like I am more desired if I or yeah, like if I tend to be more intentional about who I sleep with. So it's just different way of looking at it. I would say different culture.
Well, there's no right or wrong answer to
Yeah.
this. It's just the choice you make needs to get you to your goal.
Mm.
And again, if you're looking for marriage, if you're looking for long-term commitment, you do have to vet your partners appropriately. And there's one thing that I was kind of thinking on about relationships, because oftentimes I see individuals are in good relationships. They're happy. Like the guy's treating her right, she's treating him right. And then all of a sudden there's this talk about settling. I'm settling. It's like, where did this come from? You weren't thinking you were settling at the beginning, and now a year, 2 years in the relationship, all of a sudden we're talking about settling. So I gotta ask you this. Where do you hear it from your clients? Like, where does this come from?
I think that's a good question. I would say like it's actually comparison most of the time. I think it's people comparing their partner with somebody. I say social media is not even making it easier because oh my God, on Valentine's Day it's crazy. You see people flaunting their men. Their men got them flowers. Their men got them new Porsche car, all these crazy things. And then you'll be like, oh my God, my guy just got me a flower. Like, and then you start thinking about irrelevant things like, oh, my birthday got me this for this. When I asked him to take me out for this luxury date, he said no and took me to the keg, which keg is fancy, but oh, the keg compared to this crazy idea that you had. And then you start thinking about things that are insignificant, and you now say, oh, I think I'm settling, I deserve better, I'm beautiful. If she could get this, why can't I? I think it comes with a lot of comparison. It comes with social media, people living fake life. There was a video of a lady where she made a video celebrating, oh, my man got me this house. That was a lie. That was somebody else's house. And someone came online and said, leave my house. That's my house. You were standing in front of my house. And that person exposed this lady. Do you know how many women actually, went to their men to accuse them or nag at them, saying, you look at this person. And yeah, so it's crazy. Like social media is doing a thing about that. So I don't know. It's
Well,
crazy.
you are absolutely right. Social media is the bane of relationships because I either see one of two things happen on social media. Either people are selling a fantasy. Oh, look at our amazing, perfect relationship. Look what he's doing. Look for me. Look what she's doing. But it's fake. They don't show you when things are going bad. They're only showing you when things are going good. And then you're taking a look at your marriage and or relationship and you say, well, their relationship is perfect. So why can't mine be perfect? Am I settling? And the answer is no, you're not. Because most people are average. Like they're not on social media. So people who are on social media and are posting regularly are the minority.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think most people with I like the way I look at social media is most people with lovely relationships don't even post often because they're trying to protect their relationship. Most people that are struggling are people that tend to just get that, they want to get that validation, so they tend to post often. Like for me, for example, when I see maybe on my Instagram, my WhatsApp status, and I see a lady who doesn't really post before starting to post, I always kind of feel like there's something happening in this person's life. And most of the time when I tend to speak with them, it's always something happening, because when you have something valuable, you want to protect it. And a lot of girls say, oh, he doesn't post me more often. He doesn't post me. But sometimes the guy is just trying to, some guys like to flaunt. Yes. But most of the time, like a lady would always tell me, she says, there's this married, beloved married men would come to her, maybe come to her friends and ask them out. Those are the married men that are always posting their wives. And when they post it, they'll be like, beautiful, this, that. Or when they have issues with their girlfriends, they could post their wife to just to make her feel a type of way. So she's like, majority of those men that post their wives or use their wife as their profile pictures, are most of those men cheat. Yes. And so you see, it doesn't really like, and that's why I see, that's what people need to understand about social media. Some people are just making content for money. They're influencing, and they just give, they just pretend or just give this fake life type of thing, and then you make it your own reality, and you ruin something that is beautiful, and that's so unfortunate. But I think that happens a lot actually.
You're absolutely right. The people that have successful, healthy marriages, they're generally too busy to be posting online. The only reason I'm posting online is because it's part of my job. It's my business. So like I got to get clients somehow. But if I didn't have this business, I wouldn't post online. I'm too busy. The people that tend to not have anything going on in their life, that they're the ones posting rather regularly.
Yeah, it's true. I've seen that. I've seen that a lot of time, and that's what happened. There's a guy that actually posts. Is he talks about he's a provider, and we a man that doesn't provide for his wife 100%. Like, is this, is that? You have to give your wife, doesn't need to. Our money is our money. He keep pushing this crazy mentality. He says he pays his wife maybe 10K, I think 100K a month or so, which is so unrealistic. And it's still all these things. And do you know how many marriages this guy has ruined, or how many disrespect a lot of women, like, when a woman start looking at her husband less because he's not able to do, it's like, is that not a man like you, that kind of a thing. And it's so crazy. There's other shows that I've been seeing online now. I don't know if you've seen them, where a guy would throw this question at couples and say, check your phones, or maybe if your boyfriend gives you a pass, a free pass, what will you do? Those things are also ruining a lot of relationships. And because it's crazy, I don't know why. I think social media is doing so much, I want to say so much harm, but it is really doing a lot on relationships. And
Well, and when you look at social media is often feeding you an emotion. It's not feeding you any type of information that you can use. And so when I look at the social media that tends to really skyrocket, it's selling you outrage. It's selling you a fantasy world. It's selling you anger. Like those are the emotions that get viral.
mm,
And so people see this and they think to themselves, "Oh, everybody must be doing this, so I have to do it myself." It's like, well, no, that's the thing the algorithm is pushing to you. You're being fed a viewpoint of society that might not be true.
mm. Yeah, I think that's crazy. And one other thing that I see also is so much hate. It's like the war between a man and a woman. Like a lot of videos about men hating on men, a lot of some videos about hating on women. And it looks like a lot of women are even seeing they're seeing the fun in being out of a relationship. Like, I've seen a video that would say, "Oh, looking back at your life, like let's say you're in your 20s, what will you feel? What will you think? What will you say to your younger self?" And I've seen a lot of videos even today that would say, "I wish I never got married. They wish I never got married. They wish I never got married." And if you see the comment, it's like, what people be like, "Oh, I wish I never got married too." It's crazy. A lot of people are rushing, are wishing that they did not get married. And that's the thing, and that's where the settling to comes, like, "Oh, I think I settled. I wish I never got married. I never did this, I never did that." A lot of people want to be single. Then the single wants to be married. It's crazy.
Well, it's that's the grass is greener syndrome. It's like, oh yeah, the grass is greener on the other side, and then they jump the fence and they go, no, it's not.
No, it's, oh my
Well,
god.
the grass is greener where you water it. And I
Mm,
think you brought up a very interesting point about kind of comparing your life and hearing that individuals are just unhappy with their relationships. Because sometimes I hear this idea around settling coming from their friends.
mm,
And it's either their friends are single. And so, at least on a subconscious level, they don't like that you're in a relationship. And so they're using settling as a almost like a manipulation tactic to kind of keep you single. Because they're
mm,
like, yeah, like he's great and all, but I think you're settling. I think you could do better. You're amazing. Slay girl. And it's like, no, but he's treating you quite well. Like when you look at your previous relationships, he's the best one so far. What do you mean you're settling? But it's that almost like that subconscious murmur in the friendship circle of like, you're settling. You could do better. And I always question, is like, where is that coming from? Is it that they're unhappy because you're not hanging out with them anymore? Is it that they're unhappy because they're seeing you succeed where they're failing? Because they should be proud for you. They should be happy for you. What are your thoughts?
yeah, I do. I do agree to that. Like, it happens a lot. And like, no friend would tell you leave your husband, but it's just more like indirectly. Because, for example, they feel like, oh, maybe they are alone at night, but you are with your man. And maybe, I know most married women, they tend to flaunt, like, "Oh my God, my man did." Most married women, they tend to talk a lot about their husbands. That's it. And for them that are single, they'll be like, they feel a type of way. There's no way about it. Like, they would always feel a type of way. I tend to um I like to be accountable. I like when people are accountable for their decisions. I feel like and I think that's why a lot of people tend to cut out a lot of single friends when they get married, because they want to be intentional about the kind of advice that they receive. And most of the time, for it's easier to see single friends, like single group of friends. And but when there's a married one, it's kind of it becomes different, because now they can't hang out all the time anymore. Now she has to take permission, or he has to take permission from his wife. So things are always different, and there's no way they would always, is either make him feel guilty, or they make him feel bad for having to rush back to his wife early, or is that feeling bad, like, oh, am I not of a good, I'm missing out, like they are doing more stuff and I'm just the one missing out, or maybe I'm actually creating issues in this friendship, or they, there's always that dynamic when that happens. And I could see why unconsciously they tend to just kind of, indirectly throw one or two words that makes them like go back and think and start doubting their decisions when it comes to marriage and stuff. So I've seen that happen a lot actually.
Well, and it's that poison of the well. It's
Hmm.
not like they're stabbing you in the back. No, they almost, some friends will lay a foundation and say, yeah, he's good, but so and so gave this to you. And it's almost like this subtle undercurrent of planting seeds in your head of maybe you'd be better off with somebody else. And I see that as well with married individuals that sometimes have to cut out their single friends because they say they're not providing me good relationship advice. And if I listen to them, this relationship wouldn't be alive.
Hmm.
But that's a very delicate balance to have, where you have to understand, it's like, is this genuine feedback or is this somebody poisoning my well?
Hmm. And over time, listening to that type of advice, it can start doing, because they don't say it in an aggressive way. It's just like very quiet, and funny enough, it's like they say when you want to talk to your husband, if you want to get the best, or your boyfriend, you want to get the best results, be calm, talk to me in a very calm way. There's no way. Even if it acts like it is not listening, it goes back and think about it. Compared to when you're aggressive and screaming, it tends to see it as an attack, and most of the time it doesn't really do it. Then, so those kind of tone, when a friend says something like that in a very calm and easy tone, there's no way. Even when you try to ignore it, you still go back to bed and you think about those kind of conversations, like, ah, she said that, she said this. So yeah, I do agree.
One of the most insidious comments I've ever heard was, there's a woman talking with her friend and she said, "Oh, what does he do?" And she said, "Oh, he's a manager at a superstore." And she goes, "Oh, that's cool. I know when I met my husband, he was still going to school as a dentist." Uh, and everyone has to start somewhere. And it's like,
Oh,
there's a bashing of the partner.
from a manager to student.
Yeah. Well, it's like,
Comparison.
it's one of those things like, yeah, he's a manager, but he's no dentist. I married somebody who's going to be a dentist. You just married a store manager. And on top of that, there's like that humble brag of like, yeah, I had to start somewhere, but look how I turned out. And it's also forcing almost like this comparison to the other person. Like, see, we're friends. You could have somebody just as good as me, but you didn't get it. It's a very insidious
That's
comment.
crazy. Yeah, that's really crazy. And it's funny, we get that a lot from friends, or they might even start introducing you. They might tell you, maybe you could have a lovely relationship, and they could keep telling you something like, that guy likes you. You can date two guys, you can do this, you can do that. More, you can date multiple guys. But the truth is, knowing that if that guy that is showing you that amazing affection, amazing love, that loves you, that takes care of you, when he finds out that you're doing that, you're gonna lose him. And especially if you're expecting him to be faithful to you, but you're not faithful. It's just stop, so it's, yeah. So anyway, it's like, just be, I tend to, like, growing up, when I have an issue, I have two friends that I always talk to, but I tend to just ask them. I don't act like I'm even the one going through that problem, but I be like, I have a friend that is doing the, and then they give me advice. But I believe that we all have our senses, and we all have brain to make the right decisions for ourselves. So I tend to be accountable for my decisions. So like most of my decisions, it's me, but I will hear them, but I tend to choose my own. So I tend, even regardless of the type of friendship that you have, you can't really, at the end of the day, blame any friend for the outcome of your situation. It's still your responsibility. It's still you made that decision, not them. And so, which means you have to also be intentional about the kind of circle that you're in, so that you don't have to go through that dilemma of having to balance your friends and your relationship.
Absolutely, because your friends are not responsible for your relationship. You are. And if your friends are giving you advice, you should stop and start thinking,
Mhm.
okay, where's this advice coming from? What is their view on my partner? If they're always bashing my partner and talking down about them, this isn't a friend.
Yeah.
A friend is looking for the best in you. They want you to have the best of the best. They want to cheer you on. And if you chose this person, they're going to cheer you on. The only time they would ever come out and say, hey, I think you should maybe not date this person, is if they see you unhappy or being abused.
Exactly.
Other than that, they should always be in your court. And if they're constantly like subtly manipulating you of like, you can do better. Like, sure, he's good, but is he doing all this? Or yeah, she's okay, but she's not really doing this for you. Like, okay, that's their opinion, but
Yeah.
are you happy?
Yeah, I do agree. I think it's good to have authentic friendship. Like, could be they could be single or married, and it just being able to, and I think you could always know based on how they advise you and stuff. You could always, and then you would also know what to talk to tell them about, tell them when it comes to your relationship. Like I don't always say block people, or I always say tend to know your friends, and then you know how to relate with them. So if you have friends that always give you bad advices, avoid some kind of conversations with them. And if you know people that give good advice, those are people that you should call when you are having issues, because they would let you see the bigger picture, and then they will be able to they would even give you the freedom to make decisions yourself. Some friends are always very pushy, and they would be pushy, but some friends will say, okay, this is what I think. It's the boys in your court. Make the decisions that works best for you. So yeah.
I love it. I think we could keep talking about this for hours, but I think we're going to end it there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Decoding Dating. Please give it a like, subscribe, and share it with somebody who could use this information. Any last words, Evelyn?
Yeah, I think we've said most of it, and yeah. So, like I would say, ask yourself if you're settling, and but then ask yourself if can I live with this or not, and then you can make your decisions. But thank you so much for spending time with us today. Yeah, we would like to hear from you actually as well.
Yeah, write in the comments your thoughts on the video. And if you're struggling in your love life, feel free to reach out to myself, Adam, or Evelyn, and we're here to help you guys out. We shall see you in the next video. Take care.
Bye.